As long as I can remember, I've been interested in history, American history in particular. As a little kid, the American Civil War was one of my favorite topics. And as far as illustrations go, my wife and I are working on a children's book called B is for Battle Cry, a Civil War alphabet, for my publisher, Sleeping Bear Press, out of Chelsea, Michigan. And this is really sort of, in some ways, a dream come true, really, childhood dream come true. Because I was greatly influenced by the children's books I saw. There was there was a series called, I think, The Golden Book History of the United States, and I actually have it around the house here. And I break it out every now and then just kind of for a trip down memory lane. There were these wonderful dynamic oil paintings of various aspects of the Civil War. And I know for a fact that was very influential in my childhood. And so now I get a chance to, in my own particular way, sort of hope that I'm doing the same thing for, could be future generations of Civil War buffs.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite part of being an illustrator is getting a chance to tell stories through a visual medium. I've often said that for me, history is all about stories. It's not about facts and figures. It's about stories of humanity, right? Same thing with the illustrations that I work on. That's why I prefer, I think, being an illustrator as opposed to what you maybe call a fine artist or a studio artist, where you do a one-off painting and it just stands on its own. I prefer working on illustrations.
Is that how you would define the term illustrator then?
That's the way I do.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, illustrators have often times been called upon to, to make, covers for magazines, cans of, soda. I mean, you name it. Sure. Illustrators have worked on all these things. But for me, really the pinnacle is illustrating children's books because it's just such a natural way to tell stories. Many of us, at least, this is how we learn about something. Kids is through the things we see, at least. Well, and I think that's it's sort of it's an ever elusive goal. I talk to other illustrators, fine artists, performers, writers. Everybody sets these goals for themselves that really in many ways are entirely unattainable. But you're right, it's kind of what drives you forward.
It is.
Yeah, so I try not to rest on my laurels, so to speak. That's the beauty of working with oils and oil alkyds, which are fast drying, very forgiving. I don't work in watercolors for my illustrations because I need to have control. And I'm sort of a detail freak.
Because what's the watercolor soak in and then you can't
Exactly right. The watercolor, it sinks into the paper and you really have to work.
Yeah.
It's pretty much set. Whereas with the paintings you see around you in almost every case, I can go back and I can work on them from now till the day I die.
Really?
And I wouldn't recommend doing it, of course, but well, it is a good thing because I think deep down I'm an illustrator. Really that's what I've been sort of prepping and priming myself. I mean, when I first attended Dakota County, it was technical college back in the 1980s. It was to essentially be a visual artist of one form or another, a visual merchandiser.
Exactly.
And so I'm still using some of the skills I learned there.
Skills.
Well, it's a different world, I must say, than it was when I started because the computer is such a driving force.
I was going to ask about
in
that.
a lot of what people do these days. So you can't afford to not be familiar with computer graphics. You have to be familiar with some element of computer graphics.
Okay.
But at the same time, you really still have to be able to pick up a pencil or a paintbrush and work on a piece of paper or a canvas. That has to come ultimately before whatever happens on a computer. And the work I'm doing is a perfect example of that. It's sort of a marriage of old and new technology. I'm enjoying what I do. I'm I think the luckiest man in the world right now. I get paid to do something that I would do for free.
I always think that. I think musicians and artists are the luckiest people.
And then as soon as I say that, you will leave today, and I'll go back to working on that painting over there, and something won't work out. No. And then I'll feel like, why did I decide to do this? It's not working out for me.
Brought you good luck.
And so, yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. But no, generally I feel like I'm the luckiest man in the world. I'm married to a wonderful woman, I have a wonderful family, and I get to do the work that I'm fascinated with. And I get a chance to, as a result of the work, interact with the public. It's one of those situations where you really aren't going to improve unless you just get out there and do it. And I still learn. I learn from other illustrators. I have books around the house that are essentially collections of paintings from Norman Rockwell and N.C. Wyeth and Dean Cornwell, men who were part of that golden age of illustration. I'm always looking at those, if nothing else, just for inspiration. And then by putting myself occasionally in an environment where I'm dealing with other artists, other illustrators, very helpful, very helpful. And then just doing it.